Every election, the same question keeps coming back. Why does democracy feel rigged? Who really chooses our leaders? And why don't voters feel in control anymore? This is the Middle Ground, Mike.
All right, let me start everybody by saying something uncomfortable because I think it hits everyone listening, and it really is important why we have guest here, Travis, today. A lot of us feel we don't feel like we're represented anymore. Not in the left, not in the right, not even libertarians these days. 2020, look that up. They feel like the choices are pre-selected. Things are staged, which I mean, when you look at the TV, they can't deny it, even though they're going to tell it to you. And the system keeps offering the same types of leaders, just different names. Well, tonight we've got a great guy here who's creating a system, a company to hopefully help us change all of that. His name's Travis Misurell. He's not pitching a new party or a political savior, but something far more disruptive. A rethink of how leaders are surfaced, measured, and taken seriously before our election day even arrives. Travis, before we even talk solutions, tell everybody about who you are. And thank you for being on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. So I'm Travis. I'm the visionary and founder of Think Futures Now Coalition. My background's in before all this was in like process improvement operations. So I'm coming at this as like a structural solution. People need a way to organize where those in power are not in control of that organizing, where citizens can actually go whatever direction they want without any manipulation or influence. So I went from like business operations, general operations into building political operations essentially.
Yeah, no, I mean, do you believe like Americans are failing democracy, or do you think it's like democracy failing Americans per se, or like the republic, or a lack of understanding? Because to me, it's a lack of understanding.
I would say this system itself is breaking down. You could argue it's not any person's fault. Like everyone that's in the system now was born into it, is already broken or breaking before any of us were even alive. But so I think there's always supposed to be constantly evolving. We're supposed to build out our system, how we select our candidates, how the whole process works. And just as time went on, we slowly stopped evolving it and stopped improving it. And then the reverse started happening, that more and more flooded of outside money and influence now goes in and deteriorates it more and more, because those with the most money and power, they're going to want the most influence. And so they're going to chip away at everyone being represented. So in a nutshell, I'd say that at the core, it's the system the lack of evolving the system with our times. That is the core issue. But then with the broken system, those that are now in power on both sides like it that way. They don't want to fix the system. They might promise us that they're going to do something positive, but it's not going to happen because like right now the system treats money over merit, and those with the most power are the ones with the loudest voice and all that kind of stuff. So it started with the system picking the wrong people, and now we have the wrong people, and then we can't rely on them to keep fixing the system. We needed to fix it from the outside in order for us to really see like a healthy change.
And I mean, obviously, the frustration, it's structural. It seems like it's that stuff may have worked at one point, but just like everything, things need to change, right? Everything has to change. It can never stay the same. At what point does this disengagement become more dangerous than the polarization?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, like the biggest thing, because it's funny. There's like even an increase in voter turnout, but they're not voting for the two parties anymore. There's a lot more independents now, and like just people really need to have that at the forefront. That even if people are showing up, that doesn't mean like that things are going in a good direction. They're just people are voting more against something rather than for something, and that's
Yes.
that's it's not a healthy democracy that
I mean,
way.
man, you just hit the nail on the head right then and there, voting against rather than for.
Yeah, yeah,
It goes back to that. I think that old adage that I don't know if you've ever heard it. I mean, I've heard it a million times. Vote for the lesser of two evils.
yeah,
And it's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
man,
We
that's
talk
like
about
the
that all the
worst thing
time.
you could do. That's like
Hmm.
the worst thing.
Yeah,
Vote with your
yeah,
heart. Like that. I tell people, vote with your heart, even if it ends up being the wrong thing. Vote with your heart, and you can at least not not have to live with some serious regret from it. You know,
yeah. Yeah. And that's it's like such a fundamental issue that like, people are shamed to vote a certain way. If you vote third party, shame on you, you're horrible. And that's part of why the system isn't working. Like the infrastructure exists. We're just being manipulated to vote the wrong way. We're voting out of fear, we're voting for the lesser of two evils, we're voting out of misinformation. So like, yes, our vote counts. If you go to the polls and you are gonna vote, that counts. It's just that we're manipulated like, "Oh, like, third parties can't win, nobody wants them to win." It's like, well, it's not that nobody wants them to win. All the stats are showing that that's not true anymore. 63% of Americans in the 2024 polls were saying that, like, 63% of Americans want a third party viable option. So, but it's the manipulation of the party gatekeepers, the establishment media, and then the big donor money. It's all moving, it all goes towards the status quo. Yes, there's some difference between left versus right, Democrat, Republican, but the bigger thing is people versus power, as Fink says, is up-serving candidates versus down-serving candidates. And that's where we can, if we start looking at that framing, that like, is this person serving me or are they serving big donors or those more powerful? We really start seeing it that way, there's a lot less divisiveness if we see more of that, that like we should have grassroots candidates, the ones that actually want to fulfill their promises and actually believe in what they're saying. When they say they want to help you as a average voter, they actually mean it and they're not just, giving lip service. And that's the distinction we need to focus more on than just left versus right.
Yeah, I mean, man, I really couldn't have put that any better way myself. I mean, man, perfect way to say it. I mean, that right there people, that's going to click with a lot of people, to be honest with you. Just based on my conversations with a lot of people, that will click.
Yeah,
I
cool.
mean, but the politicians are, often saying, people don't show up. And, for me, that's kind of like that's, I mean, all you got to do is look at these rallies outside of some of the ones where they use like the perfect camera angles, but a lot of them, there's a lot of people there.
Yeah.
Why is that wrong? Like, where's the disconnect there between what you see from your end? Cause, and what these people are saying.
Yeah, I mean, that's it. The key thing, one of the big things that what we're building is to overcome is that there's basically a establishment approved narrative, and like maybe you could say there's two different status. There's a Democrat establishment narrative and there's a Republican establishment narrative, but they're selling us a narrative. So like. For example, if our president is a Democrat, then all the Democrats are going to say that the economy is doing well right now, and then
Yes.
vice versa. It's not whether it is true or not. They're just going to do it based on who's in charge. And then like, and then, so, it's crazy because then like, and that's part of what's falling apart right now is like, Biden can tell everyone or Trump can tell everyone, oh, the economy is doing so much better now. Like, everyone's like, wait, I don't feel like it's any better. Like, I'm struggling still. Like, what are you even talking about? And so there's this huge gap between the narrative they sell to us and force down our throats. And again, the establishment media is a part of it, the party leaders are part of it, and some of the biggest money influencers are part of it. That they basically they have their narratives that they want people to think, oh, it's not so bad, the economy is doing well, incrementalism is good, and we don't want to shake the boat too much and most people are happy. Like, no, none of these things too are true. And all the statistics can prove against what they're saying. And they know it. Their own polling would contradict what they say. They just ignore their own polling and other polling.
Yeah. And it's definitely, I would say frustrating, but it is definitely frustrating, especially when you're somebody coming from like our perspective, right? And our voters do, and obviously, because the reason why I'm asking you this is because, your selective process, right? You're thinking differently than the common, are voters actually responding rationally to these bad incentives? Or you think these incentives are doing what we think they're doing and making people be radical?
Yeah, that. Yeah, so part of it, like to contradict what they're saying, like, oh, people are distracted, young people don't care. Like so much of that is BS.
Big
Yes,
time.
some people don't actually care, but mostly it's like, I don't want to vote for the lesser two evils, or like if you feel your vote doesn't count, my voice doesn't count, no matter who is there, things just keep getting worse. They're not That's what's not motivating. And then if I do want to vote, it's very complicated because it has not upgraded to the digital age. Right now, if I want a cheeseburger, I could look at ratings of a cheeseburger. I could get a rating of the delivery driver that's going to bring that cheeseburger to me. If I'm going to a hotel, ratings on that, ratings on my vacuum cleaner, but I can't see ratings of my politician. There's no easy way to see who, like, what other people think about these candidates. And it's one of the few things that is not upgraded with the digital age. So it's harder to do politics because it hasn't upgraded to digital age. And then your voice doesn't count as much. You know that they're full of crap. Like, okay, like, for those that are like never Trump and like, oh, Trump's ruining everything. So, vote this other way. It's like, okay, but like the other side is not for anything. You're just vote it, like, for the last like 13 years, it's Trump versus not Trump. And like there's no for of it. Like, what vision is there for of the party as a whole? So it's like all these things is why people are disengaged, because it's like they're even disengaged because it's so painful. You feel so powerless, so overwhelmed, so like no one's doing something that's actually going to make a real solid difference, that you freeze, you check out. Like, there's all this psychology about it. You don't want to live in that like sense of despair. And so that's why people are checking out, is because you don't have the power. I've talked to a couple, like over 1,000 people in the last 2-3 years since I started Think. People, when they start understanding what we're doing, that gets them more excited, and they feel like a renewed sense of like, oh, this could actually be a solution that works. And like the more this gains traction, that people actually understand what we're doing, people would get involved if they felt that the solution, that something can actually change. If you feel like you're beating a dead horse, people are not going to jump in. But if they see a genuine strategy and a genuine like light at the end of the tunnel, yeah, there's going to be a lot of people jumping in and will be involved.
Yeah, I mean that's spot on. And we were talking a little bit ago. Ironically, this point that I had here, we ended up talking near the beginning, but that feeds literally right back into the lesser of two evils. It's become this permanent mindset. Literally, you
Yeah.
could have the devil and the devil both saying they're going to set the world on fire, and because of their political affiliation, people would choose one of them. And you could have the most purest thing as the third party. Not saying third party is. I'm just paraphrasing here, and people would be like, no, we got to go with this. And what I think, and this is just literally in all full disclosure to the public, this is just me speaking on this part. I truly think if we had at least some semi kind of strong third party, while they may not get the majority, they would have enough of a presence to make the other two parties either A, have to work together to get something done, or they would have to work with some angle of that third party to really make an impact. So, and that would force them to actually have to work on something. I say this in almost every political aspect I do. The 17th Amendment needs to go away. I think that's one of the biggest threats to voters. And people go, well, why? Our Senate should be popularly elected. Well, the 17th Amendment, before they changed it to a popular election for the US Senate, the Senate was generally appointed by the states. Some states had popular elections, but most of the time it was either the governor or the state legislature would appoint the senators. Well, where that's a benefit is your state government is generally going to have a lot more similar problems to the citizens of their state. So they're going to be more looking at how to fix problems from that perspective. Whereas the popular election, they should wear a NASCAR jacket and put all their donors on there. And, and the US House is meant to be, to represent you and I, the individual. Well, you and I, are the individual, are going to vote for people that represent our problems, at least in our head. Well, okay, well, now you got somebody representing the state government with similar problems that you have. You got that in there. Now you're going to get something done. But that also feeds into, where I'm going to go, like with this other part, your core insight, right? We designed the selection process because, like I said, in our head, we think we chose the person that's going to represent our problems, right? You think like, hey, like I was saying before the show, people say, hey, I want lower healthcare costs. Well, politicians come up and go, we'll make sure you pay less starting next month. Well, they didn't fix they didn't fix the cost. They're just slapping it. Now they're going to come to you in a couple of years and be like, well, the government's really broke, so we're going to have to raise your taxes. So they didn't actually fix the cost. They just hid it from you with a smile on their face. And all their buddies that donated are now loaded. But that's, that redesigning the selection process, that I it is just it just seems so obvious, but it's not,
Yeah.
at least to the
Yeah.
average person, right? I guarantee you, like, deep party insiders probably go, when they're out of it, they're probably, yeah, we need to redesign that. But when they're in there, they're not following that
Mhm.
motto.
No, yeah. No, totally. Yeah, I mean, I guess it's just people can see it as like obviously it's a humongous undertaking what we want to do, but like to like some of it you kind of touched on is like it's almost like it's common sense politics. We want common sense politics. We want something that's more efficient, easier, user friendly. Every American could just go to one place, see everyone that's running, pure transparency, who's funding their campaign, what are the kind of conflicts of interest that are there, what are their promises, do they deliver on these promises? So all of it, like, so on one hand, yes, it's a humongous change on how we decide who we're going to vote for, but it's also like a easier, cheaper, user friendly, like caught up to the digital age kind of way to do it. And like, so the buy-in is going to be easy to get more and more people to buy into this of like, yeah, of course, like why would you not want it to be this way? And but yeah, so it's the undertaking, and also like because of my brain and neurodiverse, like I see things. I'm always in the bigger picture thing rather than like the in the details so much. So some people, I mean, when I talk to a lot of reform movements and people inside the system, even those that are trying to change the system, they can't zoom out the way an average citizen can, and commentators. Like that's why I've been doing really well building relationships with like podcasters, like political commentators, those that analyze and look at the system can actually understand this easier. But those that live it day to day, like they can't zoom out. It's like this is the reality is exactly the way they see it, and they
Yes.
can't even fathom doing it differently. But it's like, yeah, but you're just a minority of the people that are actually involved. Like, if you get most Americans to do something different and they're not living, breathing politics, they just want to learn enough to make a good decision and whatnot. You just got to get them to make a better decision for themselves with these new tools and a new process. And then those that live it right now, you're actually just a minority, and people are so sick of it. So there's plenty of room to make some big changes here.
Yeah, no, I mean, tons. I mean, gosh, that's the understatement of the century. They, what would, in your mind, right? What would happen if citizens could compare the candidates on an equal footing, which is to me, what you're a big part of what you're doing.
Yeah, yeah. So really what we ultimately would see as like the future of democracy or this republic is like, imagine like I'm going to be a new candidate. I'm going to run in this district instead of being like, well, I'm a Democrat, so these are my policies or whatever. And instead, you're like, this is my district. So let me look at what my district actually wants. Where do they stand on immigration? Where do they stand on job issues? Where do they stand on other social issues? Everything. And then build your policies based on what your district actually wants, rather than getting your policy from the top down that, oh, well, since I'm a Republican or I'm a this or I'm a that, I am told that this is my stance. And then they're also very general. Like, oh, we want better healthcare and better economy. What the fuck does better mean? And like,
Right.
it's so vague, and they're not saying how they're going to do it necessarily. And so, this better system is about actually holding them accountable, being transparent, and also moving towards a more direct democracy. Like, never would it be like, that, immediate, it's guaranteed that as soon as 51% want something, that's how it's going to go. Maybe it's not going to be like that, but there should be some correlation. Like, if 80% of America wants something or only 20%, that should influence the likelihood of something getting legislated. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it has to have some connection. And right now, there's almost no correlation. It's almost 100% follow the money, follow where the power wanted it, and that's what dictates pretty much most policies at this stage.
I mean, no, you're not wrong at all. That really feeds into, I'm trying to think of the best way to say it. So what think actually is and isn't. Clarify, some of the misconceptions people may get just because, you and I are a little bit more savvy, right? But, if you're the in general person that seems to fall into these traps, what is it and what isn't it to them?
Yeah, great question. Yeah, so kind of like because I didn't really do like a full like intro on the mission itself, but pretty much the problem we're solving right now is that you're not choosing your leaders. It's really the party insiders do. Before you get to vote, the establishment already picks their candidate. They funded them with big donor money, pressured the other party leaders to endorse that person, and they got friendly media coverage for this person. Just completely stacked the game towards that person even before we know who's running in the primary on the ballot. So by the time the primaries happen, the game's already rigged. So what we're doing is building new infrastructure that puts citizens back in control of the process, not just who wins the elections, but how the whole candidate selection process works in the first place. It's going to be a two-phase approach. We're in phase one right now. So that's with our digital politics hub. So basically, that's a coordination network where frustrated citizens can plug in, build the people power, spread awareness, understand really what we're doing, ensure there's citizen oversight in what we're doing, citizen ownership. As we build into phase two, it's going to actually be citizen owned, where every American can opt into equal ownership stake of the technology we're building. So phase two that citizens will own is called digital democracy. We're going to build it with citizens. And really the goal is like a platform where every candidate gets equal visibility, where citizens control how debates happen, how candidates get compared. Like the whole process is by control of the citizens. And so like one of the premium features that we're going to have is like, imagine you could go to one place, you could put it in a zip code, and you say, like, here are all the candidates, Democrat, Republican, third party, independent, every single candidate right there, their visibility, where are their conflicts of interest, how good are they with their promises. You can look at their history, kind of like basically aggregating all the information that exists out there, all the objective, trusted data in one spot, so it's easy for citizens to know who's doing what, where's everything going on. So us as Think, we're more of like the referee. Like we're here to just make sure that as this system gets built, that it's built on a level playing field. Citizens are in control. Citizens get the oversight. They eventually get the ownership, equal ownership. No one can own more than you either have 0 shares or you have 1 share, and that's all. No one can buy more than 1 share. And it's like, and you don't even have to buy. Just everyone gets every American citizen can opt into this when the time comes. And so we basically want to build this as a referee. We want to just kind of we're doing the coordination side of it. We want to connect like movements, independent journalists, grassroots candidates, as many citizens as possible across the field at all political beliefs, third parties, everyone that's not part of the status quo, all the political stakeholders that would want genuine representation, a genuine system that works for the people. We want to network them together and coordinate this big build of digitizing democracy and modernizing democracy. So in some ways, like us at Think, we're not actually even being the ones building it. We're the ones coordinating the build, ensuring it's fair, ensuring citizens are in control. And like that's essentially our piece to it, is like we want to, there's all these great puzzle pieces that exist in the world, and we want we want the people to be the ones putting it together in the way that makes the most sense for the most people. So that's I know that's still a huge big abstract, a lot of how I answered that, but that's
No, I mean,
kind of a
but it kind of
summary.
makes sense to like, what part of the earlier conversation was about, right? Now everybody can kind of see, okay, this is why this is this, and to me, this sounds, some people may call certain things activism. To me, it sounds like infrastructure, right? It sounds
Yes,
like this is
yes,
how we
yes,
build something. And
yes.
people, if you think that he's crazy, if your grandpa's still alive from like way back in the day, ask your grandpa and he's going to tell you the same thing. This is how you build something. This isn't just a fly by night, idea. This is actually how you build. And that's where we've gotten away from. We don't build anymore. We just slap a sticker on it and call it new. And what you're doing is building, and that's a key thing, and to me, I think this, it really goes after the status quo, right? And from your perspective, right, with Think, obviously whenever there's changes in politics, somebody, is it the system that's gonna have to be more transparent, or is it politicians? Like how does that look for the average voter?
Yeah, so that's the other beauty on this is like initially, we don't need any legislative change. Like, as I say all the time, like, we're not expecting the wolves to lock their own cage because we're building new infrastructure that doesn't need to be built like legislated. It just needs to be built through technology. And then long as citizens buy into it, that's all that matters. So for example, one of the biggest issues that we find that we're trying to tackle is the influence of big money in politics. But so, we can't make money in politics like illegal or regulate it anytime soon, but what we can do is make it super easy to know who gave that candidate money. Where are those conflicts of interest? Because like most people don't know, it's still public knowledge. It's publicly available who gets funding from where. It's not the most user friendly, but the data exists. So we just need to make it more user friendly. Plug in the FEC website. There's opensecrets.org. There's different resources where like all federal and state candidates, you can see where their funding comes from. So we're not expecting legislation to change the money anytime soon, but what we could do is like make it super easy so that if a candidate's like, big oil came up to somebody and said, hey, I'm going to give you like $50,000. Person's like, well, if I take that right now, my voters will actually see it. I'll lose some voters based on taking this kind of money. So oil, healthcare, whatever, and no matter what industry, like if you care about an industry, like if you want a system to be improved, it can't involve like basically legal bribery from that industry, like healthcare. If the candidates are going to keep taking tens of thousands of dollars from big pharma, the private health insurance industry, that's why insurance doesn't get fixed. That's why healthcare can't go down. It doesn't matter if it's a Republican plan or a Democrat plan. As long as they're taking money from that industry, they can't fix it. They're being bribed legally to not fix our healthcare. And that's why, like you were saying earlier, they can add a Band-Aid, they could subsidize, they could put your taxes on it as a Band-Aid, but the price itself can't go down because they're bribed not to lower those guys' profits. And so like that's the kind of stuff, like again, like in a nutshell, we can't legislatively make it illegal anytime soon. That is a very long-term plan, but we can make it harder on them by forcing transparency, making it easier so citizens can see this information and citizens can know who's bought out and who's bought out by what and who's not bought out. And let's support that guy, the person that's not bought out.
Right. I mean, that's sunlight doesn't attack anyone. It just uncovers it and
Yeah.
exposes everything
Yeah.
for people to see.
Yeah.
And that's
Exactly.
key.
Yeah.
This isn't a third party trap. This is common sense. People tend to hear reform and think spoiler, right? I mean, even if it's their own candidate, not even necessarily their own candidate, but sometimes, you got the two parties where they have one guy, oh, I'm going to reform it, and then they kind of cost them the election. Why doesn't that apply here? That,
Yeah.
somebody may be wondering that.
Yeah, I mean, that's such a fundamental piece to this of like we need to make sure, because that is ultimately what keeps us in this two-party trap is the spoiler idea and this mentality that your vote could be either wasted or actually a bad thing. So, I mean, there's a lot of reasons why this will solve it, but the main 2 points is one is that right now part of the manipulation is the electability of a candidate. So like if the establishment doesn't like a candidate, they're going to tell you, oh, they're not electable. There's no way they could win. Voting for that person guarantees the other side's going to win. There's no one wants this person. Not endorsing Bernie, but like whether you like him or not at the time, like especially 2016, he was very popular in all the polling, at least for the Democrats. And yet the establishment would say nobody wants him. It's like voting for a unicorn and this and that. And like, it's just not true. And
Right.
so, the system manipulates us on electability to scare us. So so the solution to that is that part of this system is to show you the true electability of different candidates. So you'll be able to see in a race before the general election, you'll be able to see who has legitimate citizen support, who actually does have a chance to win. You might see, oh, in this race, a libertarian is really gaining traction in the Senate race. In the way the system works today, the establishment will not talk about that libertarian. You're a third party. They do not want you to be, they don't want anyone to know you even exist. but this system will show you who's running, what are the chances of these people winning. um, and then really the bigger solution to this is we're going to be eventually building a people's primary. Whether it's fully legislated or not, it's going to kind of be state by state at first. But by the next general election, about 2 years from now, we're going to have a people's primaries. So we're going to build the infrastructure where like a Green Party candidate is running against a Libertarian, is running against an independent, who's running against, there might be a secondary Democrat and a secondary Republican that are actually grassroots. And we're going to build a primary process that these people can run in the primary. And then that gives citizens the chance, A, to vote, like out of all the alternative choices, who is the best alternative to the status quo. So you learn that, and you learn the electability. Like, oh wow, in this race, like millions of people came out to support that person in the primary. So if you continue that energy into the general election, that person's guaranteed to win. But like, oh, in this race, there wasn't enough support for any of the alternative candidates. So that in that scenario, maybe you do have to vote for the lesser two evils if that's what you want to do. So in a nutshell, like building this new infrastructure gives you a lot more insight before the general election to like give you real insight of like, am I going to waste my vote? Like, what are the chances of this person to win? And it's actually giving you this information objectively with new data, new insights that couldn't exist before the digital age. And then it's still up to you to decide voting for the lesser two evils or taking a chance on a third party. That's going to be up to you, but we're going to give you some better statistics and information on what's going on to make a better decision there.
No, I mean, and that makes a whole lot of sense, really, when you think about it. You know, I guess showing up matters, right? Why it matters. Who are you looking at, like in these stages, right, to get initially involved in your platform?
Yeah, so really the strategy right now is in some ways like an outside in. We're going from like the people furthest out of the establishment. So like, just raw citizen support is our number one. Like, whether you're giving donations or not, just joining what we're about, join our hub. We want anyone that wants to be part of this, even a little bit, is considered a citizen architect. So our hub that just launched, it's just still in the very early stages, but we have some activities that people can do, and you can put your name to be a future owner and stuff like that. But so citizens are at the top, and then the next level is podcasters, influencers, and also independent journalists. There's a lot of commentators, like I said earlier, those that look at the big picture and try to analyze. Those are people that can really, like, a lot of this stuff just clicks and they have a better understanding of where citizens are coming from. So we're trying to connect to them. We're trying to build a network where journalists would be plugged into this. There's a whole set of features that we're releasing that empowers journalists, empowers podcasters, builds better really integrates the platform between politicians and journalists kind of into one ecosystem. So those people then reform organizations and movements in general, just any kind of movements that want change. They could be left, they could be right, they could be nonpartisan, just long as their intention is for helping Americans be more represented, then they can be part of this. So like the movements, and then from there, alternative parties and alternative candidates. We're already like doing little grabbing on the politician side, but really what happens is like once we get some citizen buy-in, journalists are talking about us, we start really like building, we're really being talked about on social media. As soon as you show that citizens care, then you got the politicians. That's like a no-brainer. That they'll come
Right.
out to you like, oh wow, you have a million people, like, in my state, a million people are listening to you. Yeah, I need to be on this platform. I need my voice on there too. So it's really about the citizen buy-in is key. Everything else kind of follows suit after that. So that's kind of the way it's working right now. We do have reform orgs on our side, citizens, and trying to keep working on journalists, building relationship podcasters. So right now it's just about coordination and awareness because people are loving this across the aisle. We have people, anarchists, socialists, traditional Republicans, centrists, people all across the aisle are really falling for this. Now they understand like what it is. It took a while to like really articulate like what we're doing here in a digestible way, but now that we got it, it's like more and more people are like, wow, yeah, this is common sense. Like it just makes so much sense to do a system this way. And so we're the support's gonna start growing exponentially.
No, and that's, I mean, that's key. When you when you pull that back, right? Where, what happens if citizens start seeing better choices coming from this? Where do you see that going once they start seeing it?
Yeah, so like ultimately we want to do it where like we envision a world where like before every election, citizens go to this platform, they see all their candidates. Because the other beautiful thing about it too is like, why do candidates need millions of dollars to run? Like right now, a senator or a House member, they need literally millions of dollars to run their campaign. But if they were, if everyone, we knew that all citizens go to this one place and all the candidates are showing themselves in this one place, they don't need millions of dollars. The millions of dollars is for ad revenue. So they have commercials and billboards and like, so they're spending money to advertise to the voter. But if we had one fair system where all the citizens and all the candidates are in one place, there's going to be like a matchmaker, like a match.com or like a Tinder for politicians on this. You say where you stand on issues, what you care about, and we'll show you the percentage of match up to the candidates, things like that. So like this will be the official digital embodiment of America's democracy. Like we want this to become the official place of democracy because again, remember, citizens are going to own this, not think we're the referee. We're just coordinating this, but ultimately Americans are going to own it. So it's going to be like every American will have an equal ownership, privately owned, but privately owned by every American as like a separate branch, a separate like, watchdog, a citizen owned watchdog that owns this technology, has oversight. They know you guys have built it with us. You're part of the process always. So it is like it will be an official arm of what our democracy is. And so we want this to be the official place that everyone goes. Like, you register to vote when you turn 18. You also register for ownership of digital democracy. And when it's time to vote, we're, hope maybe it takes like an hour per year on an election. If the minimum is like an hour to fill out where you stand, see who's running, see the electability, but we're going to help everyone through their choices, and we're not swaying anyone on what you want to, it's just whatever you want. We're going to show you like, oh, well, that person has some conflicts of interest here that goes against what you want. So we're going to point that out to you. So we ultimately see this as like the official way to see all the candidates. This is eventually there'll be like virtual town halls. You could be able to do a town hall with your candidates. You'll be able to ask questions like Q&As through the system. One official infrastructure to connect citizens and candidates into one place, polling mechanisms. So like, if a House member is like, oh, I have to vote on a bill and I'm not sure where my district stands, this will be the official place that they can ask their district questions. So we just see this just evolving further and further, just a lot of different features, always with citizens in mind, always fair with proper oversight. But there's just so many different directions that this could grow in of like everything from the candidates to journalists and other ways of like even movements can organize on here with themselves. And there's like so much that's going to end up building out on this, like different ways for citizens to just, participate in democracy in a much more efficient, organized, streamlined kind of a way.
No, and I mean, and that's key. I mean, that's very key. And that really goes into, you know, this could help reduce the outrage issue that people are having these days. Because it's gonna, I don't necessarily say simplify the process, but it's gonna make it more of a relatable process to how they live their life every day, A to Z. And I think that that's really key. And I was telling you that before the show. I think that that is some of that kind of stuff is like really key to help getting us out of that mode because they are politicians. And again, I don't think all of them. I know a lot of them that I've met have really good hearts. um, you know, and if I don't think that they have a good heart, people, I will not put them on my show. I'm not going to put a rage baiter on my show just for clicks. They have to at least have to seem like a good person. I can't guarantee they are, but you know, it'll help give them that confidence. Like going, okay, boom, 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 boom. Now you know what you have to go after, and that's like what you're building is like such a critical tool that it could, this could really help change the foundations. I mean, you and I are getting to be the old men in the room, okay? I know it probably don't feel like it some days, but you know, the younger generations, they're going to benefit from things like this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And sometimes it's hard in this day and age, but to remember that, like you and I are at a spot where now we have to build a better future for tomorrow.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
no longer the 20-year-olds with the visions to be radicalized per se. Now we have to build a system that gives them the tools to create a better country.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what to me, that's what
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
you're doing is.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and it works all like both ways of like, we're making it easier for the citizen, but then also the non-corrupt politicians that actually want to represent us, they're going to love it too. That instead of, no more dialing for dollars and you going door to door, we're going to directly connect you digitally to your constituent, to the people you're meant to represent. We're going to streamline that process. We're going to make it easier, make it more efficient, make it, you could create a poll and have all your citizens answer it. And you'll know like by tomorrow or within a couple days, you'll know where your candidate, where your citizens stand.
Yes.
So the as we've been talking to some candidates, they would love it too. The only ones that don't are the ones that want they want their advantage, that like they have big money, they have their dirty dealings, they have their roots, so they have an advantage. They're not going to necessarily like it, but like all the grassroots, new candidates, everyone that genuinely wants to represent their people are going to absolutely love this. It's going to be easier for them as well.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. I mean, it's gonna make it I mean, I don't know how nobody could see it that way, because to me, it just seems kind of like a dub moment, but I
Yeah.
mean, I guess, I guess you could, depending on the situation. I mean, but, these tools are important. As we kinda get towards the end of it, is there anything that you feel like maybe when people look at something like this or look at these kind of concepts, because, sometimes people just look at things, right, and they don't get it, right? Like, what's something that you think would really draw people into it?
Yeah, great question. Like one key way to say it is like we want to build like this connective tissue. This like some people could see it as like a civic internet. Like there's all these wonderful solutions that exist out there, but they're partial solutions. So for example, some people might think the forward party is the answer. Some would say like a traditional Green Party or libertarian's the answer. Others would say there's like independent coalitions that are the answer. Others are doing wings within the parties are the answer. What we're saying is let's stop diluting all these as separate solutions. We want to plug all of these potential solutions into one infrastructure shared. That way, maybe one of them does succeed, but a couple of them are not going to succeed. Maybe a few of them do work, end up like evolving by working together in some kind of way. We don't know, but our solution plugs all solutions in. So whether you're for the forward party or you're for a better wing of the current parties, or like you want independence to win, all of it is we're building infrastructure that can work with any direction. Whatever America decides they want the future to be, this infrastructure will exist to support whichever direction it ends up being. So like another way to see is like it's like there's all these puzzle pieces, these solutions that exist, but each has a one piece of a puzzle. And we're bringing one central platform where all the puzzle pieces can go. So now it's like, I'm a solution, I'm a puzzle piece. Now that we're going in one place, like, oh, now I know exactly where I fit in this puzzle because we're going to do it in one place rather than one piece over there, another piece over there. We don't see all the pieces in one location. So we're bringing all the solutions to one place, all the citizens in one place, all the candidates in one place, and that just makes it easier, more efficient, cheaper, all this stuff, and it weeds out the manipulation and the influence from the big donors and all the concentration of power, and it's way less divisive. Everything that we're building is civic infrastructure. There's no party sides to it. Most America wants money out of politics. Most America doesn't like insider trading in the stock market. Most Americans want term limits on Congress. There's so many things that are non-divisive. Yes, there's certain issues that we fight over, sure, but there's still a lot that we have of common denominator. And it just the establishment doesn't want us to talk about it because we like 85% of America wants it. They don't want it because it hurts them. It makes They don't want the system to be more fair. They don't want term limits, for example, so they're not going to want to push that. So they know that most America wants term limits, but they don't. So that's never going to be discussed in a serious manner. So this brings all of that to, like, it's up to the citizens. You're put us back in control. It's all about what does America want? It shouldn't be those that are already in power to control how the future of politics works.
Yes.
Um, so hopefully some of that works. I know that it's very, there's a lot of pieces to this, very abstract. We're still, every day we get a little
Oh,
bit
yeah.
tighter and more newer ways to talk about it, new analogies on how to talk about this. But our website and our hub now has a lot of different ways to learn about it. So there's different ways to learn. Just gotta be curious and start clicking around.
And that's perfect. Travis, I really appreciate you coming on because people are going to find this. And, I'm going to make sure that we get this linked in the right way so we can get people to dial in the best because this is information that people need to know. This is key. People, remember, be open to changing how you think. Without that, our lives never improve. Travis, thank you for coming on. But everybody, this is what kind of stands out to me. This isn't about picking sides. Travis didn't allude one way or the other. It's about restoring dignity to participating in politics. If you're ever boxed in, ignored, or tired of being told your only options are bad, worse, or even worse, conversations like this matter. People like Travis matter. They're the future. But not because they promise miracles, it's because they treat citizens and voters like adults. My thanks to Travis Misurell, for pushing the conversation forward. My name's Joe. This is Travis. This is Middle Ground Mike. No left, no right, just forward. Have a good day, everybody.